It's not even controversial anymore.
People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.
Miranda, Heidi ho.
Heidi ho, neighbor.
For people who can't see it, you have a mushroom. Is it a mushroom mug? What is that?
It is. It's a mushroom coffee mug because I started drinking mushroom coffee, so I needed a mug to match.
Like, shrooms, like the kind that's going to make you.
No, not on the weekdays.
Okay. Good to know. Sometimes you might need some of those shrooms to get you through talking about politics. So there's this whole back and forth about this, how slavery is being taught in Florida public schools. And Ron DeSantis invited Vice President Kamala Harris to meet with him to discuss it. And she has declined. Shock of the century.
Yeah, she declined. This kind of behavior by politics really bothers me because she assumes it's a debate when he asked for a discussion, and like that instantaneous, like she's on the defense and it's going to be a debate and it has to be a fight, just goes to show that she's incapable of having a educated discussion on this topic. And I think that that's one of the biggest problems that we have in politics today, and just socially, people's inability to just have a discussion with people they don't agree with and just kind of lay it out on the table and talk it out like adults. And it's really disappointing. She was literally in Florida and she could have easily even just jumped on a Zoom or a phone call to discuss. And she said she's not going to because the topic is undebatable.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you. However, I'm going to defend Kamala Harris just a little bit. Yes. Because Ron DeSantis' letter he sent her, it was like a smartass letter. I mean, he was being a smartass. He knew he was being a smartass. And so they're both to blame for this performative politics. And I don't really think either of them actually wanted to meet with the other.
No, it's true, but it's not about what they want. It's about what the people want. And if you're going to have if you're going to, tell the whole country, because obviously she has a bigger soapbox than DeSantis does for the most part, because she is the vice president. And if she's going to have things to say that are contradictory to what's actually happening, like, I don't know, she should have just, pushed a little bit farther and tried to have it, whether he was a smart ass or not about it.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. It bothers me that it just is like, nope, we're not going to talk about it.
Yep. Children, absolute children. All right. Our next story, Florida is the best place on planet Earth ever until the end of time.
Yes. Period. It's science. No. So Livability is a website and a group that sources a bunch of different data from a bunch of different systems that take into account economics, weather, health, education, and amenities of small towns. And by small, I mean towns that are under 500,000 people. So this list focuses on basically the beating heart of America and its small towns. And on their list of 100, there are 4 Florida cities that made that list. St. Petersburg, which is actually one of my favorite places in Florida to go. It's got the Dali Museum. It's just this sweet little town on the coast by Tampa Bay. And I actually really enjoy myself every time I go out there. Orlando made that list. This cute little town called Althea near Orlando also made that list. And then also Fort Lauderdale. And Fort Lauderdale, I thought, had a bigger population than it did. So when I saw that name on the list, I had to look it up because I thought Fort Lauderdale was a lot larger. But Fort Lauderdale has a knack of turning tourists into residents. So they also made that list.
Yeah, Mike and I...
There's a few Washington cities on that list too. I think Tacoma was on it and Vancouver.
Interesting. So now that I hear Tacoma's on it, I think that the list is completely bogus. I'm just kidding. Tacoma's fine, but Tacoma has some issues. I like its working class vibe. It's very pretty, but interesting. And speaking of Fort Lauderdale, Mike and I took a trip to Fort Lauderdale during the pandemic, and we absolutely loved it, especially since it was during the pandemic. And when we walked into our resort, there was a sign on the door that said masks optional. And we never wore it again. Okay, we're going to talk about this last story because how could we not? Police in Florida are getting calls about manatee orgies.
Yes, they're not specifically getting calls about the orgies because when people call, they think that these manatees are in distress. This time of year, manatees breed all year round in Florida, but this time of year in particular, they like to gather in groups near the shoreline and have little, group sex, and it distresses onlookers, so they call the cops. And I'm not sure what people really expect cops to do when there's 20 manatees rolling around each other, but They're just asking you to just save yourself the embarrassment and just let the manatees do their thing because they are more than fine.
Well, I don't know if they are more than fine, because didn't Florida have a case of rough manatee sex gone wrong?
It did. A manatee at a local zoo actually died after having some vigorous adult aerobics with its, zoo partner.
No, it was with its own brother.
It was with its brother. I was trying to avoid that, but yeah, it was with his brother. So I guess this can get a little, they're huge. So they're in shallow water. If it's too shallow, maybe they lose their buoyancy and start to crush each other. I don't know. But whatever it is, just let nature take its course and let the manatees do their things and leave them alone. Don't go up to them. Don't pet them. Just observe, or just give them some privacy. Even better.
This is the kind of important stuff that you'll only hear about here on the Undivided podcast and our segment, Florida Report. Miranda, thank you so much for that rousing segment. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's not even controversial anymore.
People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.